Alright, we have survey interviews, and here we go. First thing you're going to do when you want to conduct a survey interview is determine your purpose, like why you want to learn about this topic, or what you want to do with the information after you've done the survey. And when you're determining your purpose, you're trying to do one of three things, and that is describe a topic or an issue, like a new law being passed, a situation such as, like the Super Bowl, or a phenomenon like why are the gas prices so high. And you want to consider what your goals are, short and long term, what you plan to do with the information afterwards, whether you're just going to keep it for yourself or you're going to try to go further with it, and what kind of information you need. Types of surveys. We have a cross-sectional survey, and that's used to describe feelings about a current event in like a brief time period, how people feel in a brief amount of time about something going on. And a longitudinal survey, which is how thoughts, knowledge, and opinions change over time, whether it be weeks, months, or years. And your results will be presented in one of two ways. It'll be either be qualitative or quantitative. Qualitative being the results being expressed in text, like in a paper or something of that nature, and a quantitative survey is something that is when you record your results in numerical values, which might be done on a survey that you've taken in a class or during a organizational meeting of some kind. Conducting research. You want to investigate everything you can about the topic that you're going to do the survey on. You really want to become kind of a mini expert on the topic. You want to know, specific phrases or words that might be prevalent in this field. You really want to become knowledgeable about really everything you can, because the more knowledge you gain before conducting the interview, you can learn about things that are already out there that you might have been thinking about researching during your survey, and now you can include this information while you try to develop new questions and kind of concerns for your own interview. Structuring the interview. We basically just have the guide and the schedule. And the guide basically points out what you're going to talk about during the interview, whether it be your main points or how far you're willing to deviate to these main points. The guide is your key to maintaining kind of the integrity of your interview. And the schedule is basically there just to keep you on track, make sure you don't get too off topic, and make sure you conduct the interview in the time span that you originally planned and allotted. Opening and closing the interview. When you open the interview, you're basically going to tell the interviewee what the interview's for, what you'll discuss with them during the interview, if this is relevant, if they don't already know the basics of what's going on during the interview. And you want to make sure your questions are easy for them to understand. You want to really go through your questions a lot. We'll get more into that in a moment. But make sure they're not confusing to the respondent. And your closing is going to be pretty brief. You're going to, you want to thank them for spending their time with you, and you might ask them if they're interested in the results, where you can contact them by telephone or email. And if they don't want you to have this information, you don't really want to force the issue, or you'll kind of lose them later on. If you want to do more surveys, you want to be polite and respectable towards them, so that you might be able to use this person in an interview in the future. Questions. Your questions are what you're going to really spend the most time on when you're developing a survey. And this is mainly because the way questions are worded can have a really big impact on how they're understood. It can seem like one word can really change the whole way a question's meant. Like, for example, if you say, "Is it okay to smoke while praying?" that sounds very negative. But if you say, "Is it okay to pray while smoking?" it doesn't sound as negative. It really, it almost sounds like, that's a really good idea, you should try that. Which is why you really want to steer away from the negative questions. You want to keep them as neutral as possible. You want to avoid words that are going to carry strong emotions with them, such as hate and greed, things like that. Words that you might have a negative connotation with. And that's basically just to avoid different biases. What we're going to talk about now is strategies, and there are several different strategies, and we're going to start off with the filter strategy, which is fairly simple. You basically want to start out with a broad statement about a topic, such as like, have you ever used PowerPoint? And the respondent says something like, "Yes, I have." Then you might ask them to elaborate on what they've done with PowerPoint, or whatever specific question you might have. This allows you to figure out what they actually know and whether their information is correct on this subject, and gives you a chance to correct them if their information is false. The repeat strategy, simple, we've all seen it, which is basically where they'll ask a question early on in the survey, and then they ask a similar question, slightly different, maybe a few words changed here and there, or the answers are a little different, but they're very similar And this is used to see how consistent the respondents' answers are throughout the course of the interview. Leaning questions are used to eliminate maybe a definite answer, or to get an idea of what someone might be thinking of at the time. Such as in a presidential election, you ask, oh, what candidate may you be, what candidate are you thinking of voting for, or what candidate do you like? And if they don't really have an answer for that, then what candidate might you like at this certain time? It's a little more indefinite, not quite as reliable. Shuffle strategy. This is used to try to eliminate bias throughout the course of all your interviews. And when you use this, all you're doing is shuffling the questions in your survey to be in different parts of the survey, and shuffling the answers within each question, so that people won't be biased to maybe like pick the first answer or the third answer, whatever. The last is the chain or contingency strategy, and this is used to basically start off on a broad topic and kind of narrow it down as you go. Such as, like, if I asked, did you eat cereal this morning? They say yes. Then I ask, what kind of cereal did you eat? And if they say no, then they move on to a